Wena Mngoma, Wena the gifted child, you the inquisitive person sitting behind the screen, wondering about your life and how much of things need to come into play for you to be able to connect. Well, it doesn't happen easily, and it took me 10 years for me to get to this point and to find the comfort that I have in terms of my spirituality and my journey. And please, take heed of all the things that come to you and realize that it's a day at a time, a journey at a time, an action at a time, a meditative process at a time, and we're all here to learn from it. So please, do join me. My birth name is Refilwe Moyo. I am 29 years old currently, and I went to go initiate to become a Sangoma at the age of 19 while I was in my second year of university. I am a South African resident, born and raised, and I enjoy technology. I love a lot of progressive things in the world. I love also expressing and celebrating people around me and my culture and my heritage. Most of all, I love being able to help people move from a place of uncertainty and maybe feeling helpless and not understanding what's going on with themselves. I love being able to move them to spaces where maybe they can understand themselves better based on my own experience. So, how did I get my calling? So, I've always been a dreamy child. I've always been a person who's always been shown stuff in my sleep. So, as a kid, I really didn't know what it meant, but I just shared with my family, and they've always known, I've been dreamy. To a point where I would help my grandmother be able to bet on China 5 feet. I don't know what other word to use in terms of being descriptive in it, but it would help her a lot in terms of winning all the time, because she'd always figure out and decipher my dreams in terms of the codes, the symbols, the numbers, and boom, would win, and would always get rewarded with sweets. And it was my cousins and I whenever we went to visit my gran. And fast forward to my 19th year in the world, and I was doing my second year in university while I was studying sports management. I was a hectic sports woman, and I started getting sick when I was at university, and I didn't know what was going on with me. I'd always end up in like the emergency services. My body would literally shut down. I would suffer from lots and lots of impaling headaches. And one day a doctor came to me, a black doctor came and asked me if kinalbadimo, and loosely translated means, am I a gifted person in terms of Bungoma and ancestry? And I didn't know what that meant at the time, but lucky for me, it opened up a world for me to go and explore more and look into what does it mean in terms of being a gifted child. What in essence is this person asking me? So then I went back to university, and one day I got really ill. My parents came to take me back home. I stayed at rest at the time. So when I came back home that evening, I'd feel that, you know what, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. But a voice inside of me would tell me, no, actually, you're not going to sleep. But I was like so very confused by that. And there I was, I'd fall asleep. But in the middle of the night, at a specific time, I would be in a trance, and in essence that is when Isangoma channels Idlozi to be able to take center stage, use their body and articulate and share whatever experiences they want to share at the time. And I would do that without being trained or anything like that, and it would happen consecutively for the next 4 nights at the same time. After this one particular time I got sick, and in this period, out of all the times that I've been a dreamer, I've never ever seen anything towards my calling. I'd always just know that I'm prophetic in the way that I'd see things and it happen, but never anything directed to how I'm supposed to look in my work of ancestry, like an ancestral image that I spoke about previously, or who my guides were, or how I was supposed to practice. So now, like in this week where I keep on waking up in these trances, I'm having very, very vivid dreams, to a point where I'm seeing my grandmother move away from her seat. She was dressed in Sangoma clothes. She moved away from her seat, and then she welcomed me into that space. That was like my biggest turning point in terms of realizing who I was, how my gift was coming to me, and then what needed for me to be done for me. And that is how then I took on my calling to become a sangoma. In those 4 nights, I'd give information of who are the people that are attacking my family, why do we have a series of bad luck, why are there illnesses in my family. I basically was like being a prophet and prophesying over my family in terms of what was actually going on and how they could be assisted. Fast forward a few days later, after that, I got moved to Mpumalanga because I could no longer sleep. This was something that was guaranteed was going to happen in the middle of the night. And I got moved to Mpumalanga, where I then met my Gobela, who was a vendor-speaking lady, who then resided in Mpumalanga, and that's where I trained. It took me less than 6 months. I was not surrounded by many other twasas. There was just the 2 of us, and later the other one left. And it allowed for my learning to become really, really quick. And yeah, I got to learn about intlolo, herbs, trees, how to administer them, how to treat them, how to consult a person. And that is in essence where my story of Bungoma began. What am I gifted in and how do I practice? So I've got 3 Ndumbas, 3 rooms that I consult from, and this is one of them. This is the first time I've shot in this one, and this one in essence is the prophecy side, where I pray and I meditate and I invite God into this space. There's a candle always lit in this room, and as you can see, my capes and my dress that I've seen in my dreams, and all of these guys I've seen in my dreams, and I've purchased them, made them, got them sewn, collected them over the years, and made sure that all the things that I've been shown, as I usually direct you guys, are then now also in my space, so I can also not just teach but live by example. So I practice using water to do readings on people, where I can maybe read information from a glass of water about a person who I'm reading. I also do pray for people. I am able to help women with their fertility issues and problems. I also am able to read a person through throwing of the bones, which is largely related to Ubungoma and Nguni side particularly. Yes, I do Femba as well too. Femba is another process that is done largely by Umundawo, the ancestor from the water, which I've spoken about as well previously, and I'll touch on extensively as the time goes. And that in essence is how I largely work. I use Mundawo, Munguni and prophecy to be able to administer help to people, and that is in essence how I am gifted and what I'm gifted in. How do I identify with my ancestors, and how do they communicate with me? My ancestors communicate with me in a number of ways. For one, feel, where they make me feel certain things on my body. I know for the longest time I've always had sensations on this part of my arm where it joins, where there could be like a really, really big sensation, almost like there's a fire happening within my arm. And when I began, I never quite understood what it meant, but I'd always go to sleep because there was like an innate feeling that says, go sleep to figure this out. And I'd go sleep, but I'd wake up with a dream that's specific to what I needed to do at the time. There are also times when, much like when I was told that you're going to sleep, but you're not really going to sleep, it's a voice in my head. It almost seems like I'm thinking the thought, but I know that it wasn't a thought bred by myself, so there's another influence there. I didn't fight it for the longest time, and most people confuse it for being crazy because they don't always want to believe that there could be another voice within themselves that reasons with them, or gives them instructions. Another thing that I also do and have noticed in time, in terms of my communication with my ancestors, is my vision. Usually my vision tends to blur out and not be very strong when I get particular or very specific messages. My eyes tend to twitch quite a lot, either sometimes symbolizing visitors, or the palm of my hand will get really, really itchy, and I'll know that a client is coming, or maybe money is coming my way, like a really big job that's going to make me change my circumstance at the time. Another way that I've learned is through dreams. Dreams are a very big pivotal point for me, where there's a lot of information that's shared in that space, and I get most of my direction and narrative from there. How else do I communicate? Through my candles, through meditation, through prayer. I'm a big advocate for Pasha. I send communications through to my ancestors in that way, and through my dreams and my visions. That's how they respond to me. What else is a way of communicating for me? How do I receive Amadozwami? Sometimes also I'm very light in terms of energy. Energy for me is something that I pick up on really quickly. Whether you're being a nasty person in the room or you're a dark person and just internally in your heart you're not a good person, I pick up on all sorts of issues. I don't always react to them, but I pick up on them. And that has helped me a lot. Oh, and the biggest one that I have now titled delay tactics. So anytime I'm maybe meant to go do something, like maybe go cleanse someone's home or something, two things either happen when I'm not supposed to carry on doing so, and recheck via my bones and fact find to make sure that things are going to be done correctly. One, delay tactics. If I am a very punctual person, I'm a very organized person, so my stuff is always sitting in a very particular manner, so there's no need for me to touch here and like be all over the place in terms of me trying to find out where my stuff is. So whenever I'm packing or wanting to go somewhere, I notice that if I'm not supposed to go to that place, or maybe I'm supposed to pray about it, meditate, or check before I go, I will have a lot of delay tactics where I will hold something, move around the room, go place it somewhere else, grab something, move around the room, and I'm never really into what I'm doing. In terms of my thought is never. To me, I'm thinking I'm solving for the packing and the preparing to leave, but it's almost like I'm being moved from the space that I am, and I'm just literally, energy is being exerted, but nothing actually comes of it. I never actually get to finish that task. Time would actually be, like I'm late, and I'm like, that's how I know. For me, like, that's a very big thing for me, delay tactics. And that's how I know either I'm going to a dangerous place, I'm not prepared well, I should recheck my information in terms of where I'm going and what I'm going to solve for. But in the biggest times, that has always been something that I know that has saved my life in one way or another, because if I had not listened to those moments, then I would have not been able to maybe be here at this current point in my life. And another thing that I've also realized is when there's maybe a dropping of something. Most instances, it's muti. Anytime I've ever had to put muti together for someone who I'm trying to help, or maybe that's someone that I didn't even read before, but someone that I maybe live with in my space, whether it's a twasa or a gobela or anything like that, and anytime the muti spills on the ground, and it doesn't have to spill as in untidily, but I lose control of it in my hand and trying to move it around, that to me is a signal that don't do it, So there's a lot of ways that Amadlozi speaks to me. I just don't put my thoughts ahead of the action that's currently happening. I take it for what it is, throw my bones if I have to, pray about it, go have a cup of tea, come back, reconvene, and see then what is being translated to me. But there are a number of ways that Madlozi speaks to me, and it's all about having a listening ear. Thank you for tuning in, and that has been a Q&A session with myself, with questions posed by yourselves through comments and through emails. And thank you so much for tuning in and for wanting to learn about me, and also being here to celebrate me and the time that I've had in my journey. Until next time, Togazan.